The Winnipeg Jets are in serious trouble as they have now lost a handful of games in a row. The Jets are struggling, and fans are starting to become a little bit fed up with how this team is playing, the effort they are giving, and the lines that they are putting out. So we're going to break that down and discuss what it can mean going forward, as at one point the Jets were top of the NHL, and now they're falling lower and lower down the standings. But before we get into all that, if you're a part of the 94% who aren't subscribed to the channel, I know the Jets are struggling right now, but make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. It's a big goal of ours. And if you're on Hattrick HQ, make sure to smash the subscribe button over there as well. But Darius, it's an unfortunate time to be a Jets fan right now. The Jets are not playing well, and there's a few things to go over. And again, they had such a great start to the season. We knew they were going to come back down to earth at some point, but it seems like so long ago now that they were dominating every single team that came in front of them. It didn't matter if it was a great team, didn't matter if it was a bad team. They just were outplaying the opposition. And now it's the polar opposite. They're getting outplayed, they're getting outworked, they're getting outcoached, they're getting out everything. And it's a little bit concerning. We can bring out some screenshots here, and you can see the Winnipeg Jets have lost 4 straight games and 7 of their last 10. Let's dig into what's going on and what the Jets can do about it. Before we get into the article and kind of discuss our thoughts on what's going on, I just want to get your thoughts on the Jets' 4-game losing streak they have going on right now. And this is in front of Connor Hellebuyck as well, who's played all these games. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, a lot of people were speculating, earlier in the season, the Jets were eventually going to come down to earth. That was the saying that I kept hearing at the beginning of the season. I don't know if this is them coming down to earth. I think that they're a lot better than they're showing right now. And they're also dealing with some injury troubles. Like Ehlers is not even playing right now. He's obviously on the IR. He should be back within the week, or at least in a week. And obviously, Mark Scheifele is not, himself right now. We're going to get into Mark Scheifele later in the video as well. But it's very interesting. 4 in a row. This is very unlike what we've seen at the start of the season. Like domination, like you said, comes to mind, right? Every single game to start the season, they were in it. I think fans wouldn't be so hard on the team right now if it looked like they were in games. But right now, some of the effort isn't necessarily there, and some of the lineup decisions, and obviously the coaching, like you alluded to too, is questionable at times as well. So we're gonna get into it, but it's very interesting. I don't know if this is going to, stay like this, but I think that they're going to have to work their way out of this pretty quickly before it becomes a little bit more of a problem, because all of a sudden they're 18-8 on the season.
Yeah, the record is falling down, and you mentioned it. Winnipeg Jets have a lot of injuries right now. Mark Scheifele is dealing with stuff. Nikolai Ehlers is dealing with things. There's a lot of interesting things going on with this team, and Jets confident they have the skill to pull out of the nosedive, and obviously they do. And you can see here, Mark Scheifele didn't have an answer for why the Jets' losing streak now sits at 4 games. I don't know if I can pinpoint it right now, Scheifele said. I think it's just a matter of wearing teams down. Obviously, everyone's gunning for us, and they know they got to play hard. So I think it's just a matter of getting back to looking at the blueprint that we were doing earlier on and just try to get out of that. Hellebuyck stopped 28 of the 31 shots. And you think about what has really contributed to their downfall, what has kind of changed. You mentioned some injuries have happened. The blue line hasn't been playing nearly as well, and a lot of that is because of Dylan Samberg. Ever since he went down, the team has kind of fallen apart a little bit, and it's not a direct cause of Dylan Samberg necessarily, but I think he held that blue line together because now they're scrambling. They're looking for, good pairings in the second pairing, the third pairing, matching up Ville Heinola with Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley looking like not an NHL caliber player. So the fall of Dylan Samberg has really kind of created this snowball effect here, and I think that's the first step here in what's going wrong. But the team just doesn't look the same, and Mark Scheifele specifically looks like a shell of what we saw the first 15 or so games of the year from him.
Yeah, and he was moved away from center. I mean, obviously something's going on with Mark Scheifele, right? And like when you look at his stats so far this season, I want to bring them up actually as well. He's had a really good season. Like if you like on paper, at least like 27 points in 26 games. This guy's a point a game player right now, and he was playing, I think, some of the best hockey of his career for a small stretch to start the season. So this is a guy who plays in a lot of situations for this team. He logs a lot of ice time, and when he's not himself and something's bothering him, I think the team is going to suffer at times because of it, because this is your first line center. So obviously, I think that, plays a big part into it. And like you said too, Dylan Samberg, like I didn't, looking at the start of this season, coming into the season, if anybody had said, Dylan Samberg being out for a significant amount of time was going to significantly impact the defense and the team defense, I'd be like, I don't know if that's really going to be a thing this season, but it's showing that it is. It absolutely is. And because, other guys are moving up into those spots. You have Hayden Fleury now on the second pairing, and that third pairing last night, we're going to touch on it as well. Not great, really, really not good. So they're gonna have to figure it out quickly here. I don't know if it's playing around with the pairings or playing around with the offense a little bit too, but it's not working the last 4 games, and they're going to have to find some answers pretty quickly here, because you don't want this to keep sliding. You don't want the record to keep suffering, because again, they were in first place by quite a bit before, and now they're not in first place anymore, and they're starting to slowly let other teams catch up to them.
Yeah, and obviously Dylan Samberg had a decent year last season, and he was one of their better defenders. You can see the full thing on what Mark Scheifele said on the Jets' struggles. I don't know if I can pinpoint it right now. Like I mentioned, it's a matter of wearing teams down. And the interesting part of this quote is everybody's gunning for us. They have to get back. Everybody is gunning for them. They know they were the best team in the NHL at one point, so now they need to actually prove that again. And Scott Arniel came out and he said, we need to be better as a group. That's the biggest thing. We won all these games as a team, and this isn't going to change here. Everybody had a little bit of fault with these losses, and now it's a case of us sticking together and going on to the next game on the road here and finding a way to win that hockey game. And the Jets, if you watch the game, they started off pretty good. Started off hot in the first period, 8-6 shot advantage, and they got outshot 19-3 in the second period, which is something that cannot happen. We've seen it a few times now. And for Scott Arniel, a rookie coach, it's gonna be it's a big telling point for him. He had off to a great start. Everything was flowers and roses, and now he's dealing with a struggling veteran team. The media is coming for him, and it's gonna be interesting to see how he actually goes ahead, and answers and responds. And we saw some boos in the crowd yesterday from Jets fans. 18-8, lost 4 in a row, and now they need to take care of business tomorrow night against the Buffalo Sabres, because Buffalo's not a great team anymore, and they need to do it. And we can look at the impact chart here and kind of go over some of the blue line guys. Neil Pionk had a pretty rough game against the St. Louis Blues there. And again, this isn't a tell-all, be-all, but you look at this, and Logan Stanley was the third best, even though he didn't look phenomenal either out there. So I think everybody was so bad in this game that there wasn't really a great player here aside from, Scheifele probably had a solid, probably had the best game on the Jets. But I hesitate saying that because he could be so much better given his injury, and he looked fine on the ice, but you can tell he's still dealing with something, whether that's, hesitation with his shots, not shooting as much, not being able to finish a lot of these goals that we saw him get over 10 goals very quickly this season. So any final thoughts on this? The blue line needs to figure it out, and specifically Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola, I'm not super sold on that pairing either.
No, not super sold there. And to get back to the booing thing, I think the reason that fans are pretty disgruntled right now, because when you look at the record at face value, 18-8 is still great. And they're still, tops in the league, right? They're just a few points behind first now. But the NHL is a what have you done for me lately league, right? Especially with the fans. And the Jets, Jets fans see that something is clearly not working here. When you look at the defense pairings and obviously the impact charts, which do tell the story of a game at points, Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola together, I don't know if that's a great pairing. We kind of saw it on paper and said that's odd, and then seeing it on the ice, not necessarily the greatest thing. Logan Stanley, if you ask any Jets fan right now, they're not a huge fan of this player, right? So I think that they really got to figure it out. And we keep saying that maybe it's a Logan Stanley experiment. I don't know if it's an experiment anymore. At points yesterday, he was the oldest player on the ice, all 5 guys included. So I'm not sure it's an experiment anymore. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work just because he's a big body. I don't know if you can have him in the lineup because there's some other skill there. Or maybe you go out and make a trade, which we've mentioned as well. Maybe a guy like Marcus Pettersson, I'll throw out there from the Pittsburgh Penguins, which we may have a video on. But I think it's very interesting. They're going to have to start playing with things because fans see a trend here and that something is not working.
Yeah, and ultimately it's going to come down to a matter of if Logan Stanley, I don't think it's an experiment anymore either. I think he's just playing bad hockey, and he's not a young prospect anymore. I've seen him over the past few seasons, and ultimately it's going to be a matter of what happens going forward with him. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Let us know what your thoughts are on Logan Stanley. Do you think he should still be a part of the pairing? Let us know. See you guys later.